Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Rules and laws should be applied across the board if we are to be just and fair. We can say, well, this is my uncle, he committed this act which is in violation of that particular law, but because he's my uncle, forget about it. But when your uncle does the same thing, must be punished. Clear? Clear. So when our allies commit a crime that we called a crime when our enemies committed, then we should also call it a crime. What happened? The Ukrainians did what I said they will do when they will get more sophisticated and longer range missiles from United States of America, like ATACMS and others. They will hit civilian targets. I said that they will hit Moscow if they get the right range. And they didn't get yet 500 miles or 600 miles range in order to hit Moscow from the border with Russia, but they attacked beachgoers in Sevastopol. We have some dead people and some children that lost their life due to an attack with American missiles conducted by the Ukrainians. And here is the enemy. When the enemy did the same thing, we call it a crime. We call it a terrorist attack on civilians. Now, when the Ukrainians do it, will they call it the same way? No. Let me show you. I have here about 7 articles. First one comes from Reuters, and it is from today, which is the 24th of June 2024. Russia says US is responsible for deadly Ukrainian attack on Crimea. So here it is, the first article right here, and always does that right here. Reuters. Ram pam pam. So I'm gonna just read a little bit out of it, and then we're gonna see the Russian reaction to this and details how the Ukrainians launched a missile attack on Sevastopol and the Russians destroyed the missiles in mid-air and accidents happen. Let me show you. Now, Moscow. Russia said on Sunday that the United States was responsible for a Ukrainian attack on the Russian annexed Crimean Peninsula, annexed through a referendum. So, off. Right? Like Kosovo. Oh no, Kosovo did not have a referendum. It just had a vote in the so-called parliament that decided we are independent today. It's like, for instance, let's say the lawmakers in California tomorrow decide that we are independent from the United States of America. The same way, right? No. All right. United States was responsible for a Ukrainian attack on the Russian annexed Crimean Peninsula with 5 US supplied missiles that killed 4 people, including 2 children, and injured 151 more. So, killed 4 people, including 2 children, and injured 151. There are videos that you can watch, I'm not going to play them here, with people carrying the dead and the injured from the sands of the Crimean Peninsula on the Black Sea. Now, I should show the same outrage when the Russians do this to the Ukrainians, correct? Correct. And it should be outrage. And what do I say? That's a war. They will do it consciously and accidentally. Collateral damage, the Americans are calling people who die like that. The Russian Defense Ministry said 4 of the US delivered Army tactical missile systems, ATACMS missiles equipped with cluster warheads, you know what it is? All right, were shot down by air defense systems, and the ammunition of a 5th had detonated in mid-air. Footage on Russian state television showed people running from a beach and some people being carried off on sun launchers. Russian installed authorities in Crimea said missile fragments had fallen just after noon near a beach on the north side of the city of Sevastopol, where locals were on holiday. That's a terrorist attack. You try to create panic and terror so they can change something. Like what? Come to these guys that are killing them, please. The incident generated a furious reaction among Russian public figures. The Defense Ministry of the US specialists had set the missile's flight coordinates on the basis of information from US spy satellites, meaning Washington was directly responsible. So what the Russians are saying, those missiles are coordinated, or coordinates are given by the American spy planes, military planes, therefore you guys are involved in it. Basically what this guy says, and I'm quoting, responsibility for the deliberate missile attack on the civilians of Sevastopol is borne above all by Washington, they say, which supplied these weapons to Ukraine, and by the Kiev regime, from whose territory this strike was carried out, the ministry said. Well, as I said many times, you provide my enemy, or the guy I'm fighting with weapons, you are my enemy, you're part of the war. You are a participant. This is the United States of America. But the Russians keep saying not doing anything yet. Now, the Ukrainians can use those weapons however they want. And I said, they will use it wherever they want. It's just a foot in the door. All right, so let's move on. It says, Russia annexed Crimea in 2014 and now views the Black Sea Peninsula in its integral part. How did Russia annex Crimea? Can you tell us, Reuters? They will not tell you. And if they will tell you, they will say that was a controlled referenda. There were two of them, one to break away from Ukraine and the other one to join Russia. Now that is direct democracy that the Americans don't like in their country, because if they would do it, then people would vote to seal the border, to do a lot of things that they don't want us to do. Why? Because those guys that supposedly we vote for are not working for us. All right. Putin sent 10,000 troops into Ukraine. All right, let's move to the next article coming from the Telegraph. Crimean sunbathers struck by deadly shrapnel shower from Ukrainian missile. No, it's not a Ukrainian missile, it's a US-made missile shot by coming from Ukraine. We don't know exactly who. Peek, 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 zoom, zoom, zoom. And we have a picture here and a video. I'm not going to play it. And it says shrapnel from an intercepted US-made missile, good job, fired by Ukraine, hit a beach packed with sunbathers, tourists in occupied Crimea. They have to tell us occupied Crimea. that's to the baboons to get it, right? Russian officials said at least 5 people, including 3 children, had died on shrapnel wounds, and they expected the death toll to rise. And let's go to the next article. This comes from Air Force. This is from, where is it? Air Force Times. Pentagon says Ukraine may fire US missiles into Russia in self-defense. Yeah, but can you kill civilians? No, you can't. So that's not enough. I want details. They said, well, they're going to hit only military targets. And you believe them? I don't believe anyone unless that person that I'm supposed to believe builds trust with me. You know how trust is built? You don't catch that person lying. And we caught these guys many times lying. So thank you very much. So it says here, Ukraine military is allowed to use long-range missiles provided by the US to strike targets inside Russia across more than just the front line near Kharkiv, if it acting in self-defense. What does that mean? If I see someone moving towards me and I consider that guy is gonna punch me in the face, that's how I consider. Or let's say he's punching me. Now, if he's punching me, what am I supposed to do? Can I strangle that person? Self-defense is such a vague thing, but it's used in a very weasel way in the Middle East. But nevertheless, let's move on. Next article. Zelensky, this is DPA International. This is from today. Zelensky calls for more extensive weapons for striking deep in Russia. Moscow, St. Petersburg, these guys are going to hit you. I told you, and they will. So, he's asking for more weapons, and he's going to receive them. but he's going to be promising, as he did before, he's not going to hit any civilian targets. Now, next article. Ukrainska Pravda. Russia, and this is something that when I started this video I said about, across the board thing. Russia places military facilities near civilian areas in Crimea to deter Ukrainian strikes. Did you hear that? So they do what the Russians said the Ukrainians do, which is housing military in schools, in hospitals, in the cities. Who's fighting within the cities? The Ukrainians. Remember the open city of Paris during the Second World War? They don't do that a bit. And then they say, well, civilians were targeted by the Russians. Possibly, probably they were. But where is your military? Inside the cities. So again, now they're crying about it. And this piece of information comes from these weasels from the Institute of Study of War, right there, ISW. And I will show you who these guys are. I made 1 or 2 videos regarding these guys, just to see who's behind this. Ukrainska Pravda uses Institute for the Study of War all the time to give us, like, I don't know, godly or heavenly manna. Is like, that's the truth, because they are a study of war. It's a Washington DC based think tank research, okay, study. And I'm going to show you who's the chief and what's the relationship of the director, or whatever it's over there, the president, and guess whom? Victoria Nuland. They are related very much, and I'm going to show you how. So these guys now are saying, what? The Russians are doing what they told us we were doing, and you are doing because you have the military in civilian areas. You're fighting. You fought in Mariupol. Yeah, we fought in Soledar. We fought in Bakhmut. We fought them in Avdiivka. All these cities, you had the military inside civilian targets, right? And the guys, all right, now they're crying about the same thing they did. That should not be done, regardless who does it. The Russians, Ukrainians, Americans, guys in the Middle East, you can't name them, and so on. And we have the following Russian claims of an attack on Sevastopol. The Institute of Study of War, not trustworthy, has pointed out that Russia is deliberately placing, because they have the information, the shitty Institute of Study of War, they have the information that the Russians is placing military facilities near civilian areas in temporarily occupied Crimea, trying to deter Ukrainian strikes. So the Russians, that's your fault, right? Yeah. Okay, that's shifting responsibility. Now let's see who this Institute for the Study of War. Go on their Wikipedia page, and you're going to find right there President Miss Kimberly Keegan. Miss Kimberly Keegan, she is, let me show you the picture, so you always, I like to see the face of a piece of, there is the European Kimberly Keegan, right there, right? So she is the wife of Mr. Keegan, and Mr. Keegan's brother is married with Miss Victoria Nuland. So the brothers, and they're all, just a coincidence, nothing wrong with that, they're all Jewish. All right, let's move on. Next one, we got Sputnik. Sputnik, we have Scott Ritter. You know Scott Ritter. He says it's a direct attack on Russia by US and NATO, Scott Ritter claims. And this is the title from Sputnik. Let me give you the Sputnik sigla so you see right there on top. So that's what Scott Ritter claims. And he's going to tell us here why. He said on Sunday, the Ukrainian armed forces attacked Russia's Sevastopol using US-made ATACMS missiles with cluster warheads, 4 of which were shot down and 1 deflected and exploded over the city. Former US weapons inspector, that is Mr. Scott Ritter, commented on Ukraine's terrorist attack on Sevastopol, that's what they call it, and I'm quoting, "The Ukrainians made a decision to use ATACMS missiles equipped with cluster munitions against a city, a civilian city. This is an act of terrorism," end quote, Ritter emphasized. And I'm quoting, "Ukraine since 2014 has been bombarding Russian civilian cities, sites, cities, villages, towns," I'm quoting, okay, "for the sole purpose of inflicting death and destruction on Russian civilians." Scott Ritter says, "This is an act of terrorism, and given that the ATACMS missiles cannot be deployed by the Ukrainians very important. Now, without extensive intelligence support by the United States, this is an act of terrorism by the United States against Russia, end quote, the analyst said. Got it? All right? So if you don't remember who that guy is, here's a little video here, but I'm not going to play it. Why? Because we are in the free world of the West, and you can't say things that they don't like, even if they're true. So, or moreover, if they're true, they don't like. So here you have it. I have actually 2 more articles, and see how the Russian Ministry of Defense views this. Sputnik, US responsible for Sevastopol strike with weapons supplied to Ukraine. A Russian Ministry of Defense right there. The next one is Miss Zakharova. Zakharova on Sevastopol attack. Ukraine chooses mass gatherings for strikes on purpose. Here it is from the very ballsy, smart Maria Zakharova, and pretty. Here it is, my friends. We should call it when the Russians are doing it. We should call it the same way when the Ukrainians or the Americans are doing it. I know that ATACMS, they're not fired by Ukrainians without the help of their, how should I put it, not sponsors, bosses. The vassals will follow what the boss says. All right, there it is, my friends. People are killed for mercantile interests, and those mercantile interests do not favor us or them, but those guys over there who are in charge of, the system that works so fine in the United States of America. We're going to have the circus pretty soon in the elections, and that's going to be a shit show. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.